Had no need to fight tonight.
The 2021-2022 season previews continue today with the Minnesota Wild. Yeah, the Minnesota Wild, a team who is looking pretty interesting heading into this season. Depending on how you look at him, you may look at him as a top 3 seed playoff contender. You can look at him as a wild card contender, or you could say, yeah, that division's a bit tough. I think they'll miss the playoffs. Either way, this team will definitely be competitive this coming season. And it's been very exciting to watch them, especially last year with the new additions of Carrillo Caprisov, a bunch of other people on that roster. But today, we're going to be previewing their key departures, their key arrivals, their projected lineup, and looking at many other things. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, or you're a Minnesota Wild fan and you have not already subscribed, I don't make too many Minnesota Wild videos on the channel. It's not typically a team that makes a lot of news as of late. Of course, when the Kaprizov signing does come out, I will cover it, obviously. But, obviously right now there isn't too many stuff to cover regarding the Wild. We're just moving on to them in the season previews. So if you could subscribe, I really would appreciate it, and I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get into the preview. So last season for the Minnesota Wild was an unexpectedly, and at least for me it was a little bit unexpected, it was a very good season relatively. They went 35-16-5 for 75 points, and they finished 9th in the NHL and 3rd in their own division. But unfortunately, they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights in 7 games. Most notably, the most notable person who rose up for this Minnesota Wild team was forward Carrillo Caprisov, who was elected in the 2015 NHL draft and is just now playing his first season in the NHL. Impressive. You like to see it. You like to see a guy, he didn't exactly come out of nowhere. You kind of saw him coming from a mile away, but then he kind of just, he kind of came in, rose up to the plate, did everything he had to do to obviously become, turn this Wild team into a cup contender. And then he's really honestly saved the careers of Victor Rask and Matt Zuccarello. Zuccarello and Rask, they were just bad in Minnesota in the years that they've been here without Kaprizov. And Kaprizov comes in, makes them look relatively good. And I think that's the exciting part for this Wild team. You don't see a lot of players who can make other players better. And that's the interesting part. You don't see that really too often. So getting a guy like that on the Minnesota Wild's roster is actually great. And they also solved a lot of problems this offseason. So in your key departures round for the Minnesota Wild, it consists of guys that, they really weren't fitting in this core. They lost forward Nick Benino. I'm not actually too sure where he went off to. Oh, he went to San Jose, obviously. I forgot about that. Benino obviously off to San Jose. A depth forward loss, but it doesn't really make a big deal. Now, these two guys are big, and they are actually great that they got him out of Minnesota on their just god-awful contracts. They bought out the 2 contracts of Ryan Sutter and Zach Parise. We both know how bad those contracts were. Oh, they were just god-awful. And it is so good to get them off the books. It solves so many problems, especially since they had guys like Kaprizov on the rise, but Bajustad you had to sign. Kevin Fiala was still you had to sign at the time. Ryan Hartman as well. You had a lot of guys you had to sign this offseason. And when you have the 2 big contracts of Parise and Sutter, you got to get rid of them. So obviously they bought out the contracts. Sutter's in Dallas now. Parise, technically on the Islanders. I didn't mention him in the preview because it hasn't been confirmed, or it wasn't confirmed until a couple of days after. Until I get the term, I won't make a video on this channel talking about it, but it'll definitely be a video I make in the future. They also lost Carson Sussy to the Seattle Kraken, a very solid depth loss on the blue line that they'll definitely miss. They lost Marcus Johansson to the Seattle Kraken. He's obviously moved on there as well. And then they also lost Ian Cole from, he obviously went off to the Carolina Hurricanes and is going to be working there on his depth. So they lost a lot of guys there, but they aren't that big of a deal, to be honest. I don't look at those guys and say, oh yeah, that one's definitely going to hurt the team. Besides Carson Sussy, apart from that, I really don't see any of these guys that are really going to just hurt this team hands down. Absolutely not. So in the realm of your key arrivals for your Minnesota Wild, you have about 3 guys here, and they're really just blue line replacements. They acquired from the Arizona Coyotes via free agency Alex Goligoski. Okay. I mean, Goligoski's not terrible, but the contract you signed him to, I don't know about that exactly. I don't know. They also signed from, I'm pretty sure, the Edmonton Oilers. He's been bouncing around the league a lot lately. Dimitri Kulikov. I've always liked Kulikov. I thought he was a solid defenseman, but he never really got the chance to get, a legitimate NHL spot on a team. And I don't know if he's going to get it on the Wild either, though. So, just saying. But he will have more of an opportunity since Ryan Sutter's gone, most definitely. And Ian Cole and Carson Sussy, a couple other guys that left. They also acquired a depth forward in Frederick Gaudreau, I think from Pittsburgh, if I'm correct. But yeah, apart from that, that was our key rivals. Really, this season, it's kind of relatable to the Islanders, except they had less problems than the Islanders. What they really had to do, in all honesty, was they had to sign, they had a lot of guys they had to sign. Ryan Hartman, Kevin Fiala, Nick Bajukstad, and of course, he hasn't been signed yet, but I'm assuming it will happen in the next couple of weeks. Carrillo Caprisov, obviously. So it was really just an offseason of re-signing guys. Next season, they'll go in and try and win now. But this season, obviously, just trying to get the team together. So moving on into the projected lineup for the Minnesota Wild. I went into a lot of depth here because I think this is going to be a very interesting season. As for the top six, you have Kevin Fiala, Joel Eriksson, and Carrillo Kaprizov. Then you have Matt Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman, and Jordan Greenway. That is your top six. I love that top six. This team is I have so many likes for this roster. Kevin Fiala, I've been a big fan of. Eriksson Ek, I've always liked. I remember when he signed that one contract. Kaprizov, I've always been a big fan of, obviously, because Kaprizov's Kaprizov. Who doesn't like him? Matt Zuccarello was on the Rangers for a little bit, came to the Wild. I've always liked him. I think he can be solid offensively still, but he may have to play on a line with Kaprizov to be that. But you know what I mean. As for Ryan Hartman's bounced around a lot. Chicago, Nashville, Flyers, Dallas for like 2 days, and then the Minnesota Wild. So I've always liked Hartman as well. And Greenway, I've always been a big fan of. I have his rookie card. Yeah, I like that top six. As for the bottom six, there's a lot of guys here you may be looking at like, oh, who is that guy? Kyle Rao, Victor Rask, Nick Foligno, Marcus Foligno. And then you have Backman, Gaudreau, and Big Justad. Then as for the fill-in centers, you have Cremarosa, Sturm, and Marco Rossi. If you watch my video, I think yesterday, or Saturday, the time recording this video was yesterday. But if you watch my video on Saturday, I talked about Marco Rossi being my sixth Calder favorite. And I think it's going to be very interesting this season for the Wild. And I still really do think that. Yeah, it's really going to be enjoyable watching him play on this roster this coming season. But the bottom six is a little bit touchy. But I think it can be solid. They'll probably bring in some more guys there to help out. But right now, I'm not really too sure about it. The only really guys that I see that I really trust are Rask, Foligno, and Bajukstad. Apart from that, not too sure about that. So, you can take that what you will. As for the blue line, I've been very vocal on how much I don't like this blue line for the Minnesota Wild here. They have Jonas Brodin, Jared Spurgeon, Alex Goligoski. Then you have Matt Dumba, Kulikov, Ben, and then Murill as well. So there's your pairings. Pairing by pairing, Brodin and Spurgeon. I like Brodin a lot. I think Brodin's underrated. He deserves more recognition. Spurgeon, bad contract. I guess he's still okay. Goligoski and Dumba. His contract's horrible, but I don't have a problem with him. Goligoski, Coyote, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. And as for the third pairing, Kulikov and Ben, I forgot to mention Jordy Ben was also an acquirement for the Wild as well. I did not have him in my notes because I think he signed before I made this note sheet. So, you can take that what you will. But yeah, I really do. I don't have a problem with the defense. I don't like Spurgeon. I don't like the contract of Spurgeon and Dumba. But apart from that, I don't really have too big of a problem with this blue line. It just may be something that the Minnesota Wild may want to think they want to work on in the coming years. As for the goaltending, I like Cam Talbot, I like Kaapo Kähkönen, and I like the Hamburglar. So I like that tandem. Talbot, he was kind of like the Thatcher Demko of 2021. He carried the Minnesota Wild to a Game 7 against the Golden Knights, ironically, and of course they lost, unfortunately. But we're not here to talk about that. And then Kaapo Kähkönen as well. A very solid rookie who was actually pretty worrisome that he was going to get selected by the Kraken. But, of course, Carson Sussy took that spot. And, of course, you have the Hamburglar, who is such a legend. And he'll probably be playing third string, unfortunately. But he'll definitely get some starts in the NHL this coming season. Hopefully Minnesota will be smart enough to do that. Hopefully. And now on to my final question facing this Minnesota Wild. Do they make the playoffs? And that is a question I've been asking myself for a little bit here. I want to say yes. I want to say yes, they absolutely do make the playoffs. But I also want to say no, they don't make the playoffs. Honestly, it really depends on the type of fan you are. It's kind of like how it is with Montreal, too, in the Eastern Conference. Like, you know, if you think they're going to make the playoffs, they can make the playoffs. If you don't think they can, they don't. So it really depends on how you look at this. I want to say yes, but with that competitive division coming up, getting probably a 5th wildcard spot won't be a problem. Look at the Pacific Division, but you never know. That Pacific Division could become competitive. I'm going to be low-key honest. It could become competitive very fast. So let me know what you guys think about the Minnesota Wild team in the comments below. Let me know what you think if they're going to make the playoffs or not, what their key arrivals were, if you think their key departures were good, bad, you know, in the middle, whatever you want to do. Thank you all for watching. If you could subscribe, really would appreciate it. We're only 48 away from 1,000. That's awesome to see, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.